welcome to the On a Yellow podcast, episode 7. Like fine wine, where me and Zach talk about the recent games within the world of soccer. Now, which topic do you want to discuss first, Zach?
There was a lot of Champions League games happening right now. Of course, yesterday, some interesting results in there.
Mm-hmm.
A big upset again in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Paphos, a small little team from Cyprus, came in and beat Villarreal.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
No, I sure did not see that coming. It's their first ever Champions League win. And they're second, like you said, in the Cypriot First Division, which is the first division within the country of Cyprus. They were founded in 2014, and their stadium has about a 9,300 capacity. And if we talk about comparatively to the team that they beat, Villarreal, they were founded in 1923. And their stadium, their famous stadium, La Cremica, I believe is how you say it. I'm not exactly sure on the pronunciation, is 23,500 in capacity. So it just shows that, this Champions League has been crazy. It's been a David versus Goliath moment when it came to some of the games. Obviously, Karabag, they almost beat Chelsea today, with Garnacho, of course, scoring the equalizer to make Chelsea tie against Karabag 2-2. But, going back to Paphos, it's a huge win for them. And it's exciting to see that it's not only the big teams that are winning in the Champions League, but it's also teams like this. It's their first time in the Champions League, and they really want to show that they can play with the Giants.
I think it's just interesting to see the comparison in the size of the clubs and how long they've been around even. And you have to congratulate Paphos for having been only around for 11 years now.
Exactly.
Already at that top level.
Yeah.
And winning Champions League games.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably not the hardest league to do it in out of Cyprus to make a new team. I don't think there's too many teams there.
There's 14, I think.
But it's still impressive to see them, win a Champions League game, especially against a fairly large club who's doing well in the league this season.
Exactly. And Paphos has a market value of 6 million around there. And that is contrasted with Villarreal's team worth, or their market value, which is around 170 million. So it just shows that obviously money again doesn't buy your happiness, and it's a lot of other factors that can kind of contribute to playing well within a European setting.
Well, there was a battle of two teams that spent a lot of money recently between Liverpool and Madrid.
Yes.
And Liverpool, who have had a rough go of it in England recently, they've still been doing pretty good in the Champions League. And they pulled out a big win in that game against Madrid, a 1-0 win. And as well, two more big teams, PSG and Bayern, played each other, and Bayern came out of that one with a victory.
Yeah.
Luis Diaz, their new star man that they got there, he's performing very well for them. He scored 2 goals, and then a couple minutes later, he got booked for a red card. So he really had everything in that game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had Real Madrid and PSG as two of the favorites, and to see them both lose to other teams that also could be considered favorites, it just proves how competitive the league is this year.
Yeah, and I think that league phase is really working out well. I really enjoy it. I think it's better because it shows really who is the best, right? and it's the best teams facing the best teams. And I feel like they don't have to rely on a group that's really easy to get them to the knockout rounds. And I feel like that is really important.
And then, a bit more of David versus Goliath. Game currently happening is Club Brugge versus Barcelona. And Club Brugge is actually up 2-1 in that game over Barcelona, which is very surprising to see because Barcelona has been one of the best teams in recent years. But I feel like they're losing a little bit of that star power kind of, that luster around Barcelona where you can see it with this current result that is projected. It's not looking great for Barcelona in the Champions League or their league phase, and it's been a little bit of a rough go for them. But if we want to talk about some players that you could say might be aging like fine wine, Newcastle's up 2-0 over Atletico.
There we go.
Athletic Club Bilbao with a goal from Dan Burn.
And
Joelinton in the midfield.
Joe Linton?
Yeah, Joelinton.
Joe Linton?
Joe Linton. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But, seeing someone like Dan Burns, he's been stuck around the league for so long, and he still can put in a good shift. It's really good to see something like that.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I think it's weird because now in the new day and age of football, we see a lot of footballers that are kind of getting up there in age, really showing how good they are. And I feel like it's the kind of the new way of how we, what's that word I'm trying to say? We have new technologies, and this technological advancements, I think, within the game has really pushed how old you can be and still playing football at the top level. And I feel like with a lot of players, they really kind of come into their own past their 30s. Like we look at Lewandowski, right? Lewandowski is on Barcelona is playing absolutely insane, and he's around 35 years of age. And there's players that, like Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously is arguably one of the best players to ever live, but he's really shown how the technological advancements of the game and keeping yourself at that top level can kind of lengthen your career and your ability on that football pitch. And it's really neat to see Dan Burn, obviously, who's older in age, really show that he's still there and still someone that should be starting for a football club like Newcastle.
I think that there's a lot of players that are competitive at their older ages currently, but then you're also seeing that new wave of like young stars come out.
Yeah,
and lots of highly touted youngsters being integrated in teams with those older players. And I think it's great that those older players are teaching the newer generation, and I think it's great to see that getting older doesn't necessarily mean that you're faltering in your ability.
Yeah.
And that there's just so many more competitive players out there on the market right now, and I think that just makes football more entertaining.
Yeah. When
you have a lot of high-class players, and you could see that with the match between Tottenham and FC Copenhagen. FC Copenhagen having former wonder kid Youssoufa Moukoko as one of their strikers. They're also a club that has heavily focused on youth throughout the last couple of years. They've had a lot of players go on for big transfers.
Yep.
Two clubs potentially like Tottenham, and then Tottenham takes those players and really elevates them, having integrate some older players in there. And you can see that with their 4-0 win.
Yep.
Where they had players like Wilson Odebear and Mickey Van de Ven scoring, as well as a Paulinho. And I think it's just a really good thing to see that players of all different ages are still so valuable to these teams.
Yeah. And going back to Youssoufa Moukoko, he held the previous record for his debut in the UCL. at 16 years and 18 days. That has since been broken by Max Dauman, who is 15 years of age. And it's just absolutely insane that a 15-year-old is playing under the lights in a UCL game. What's your thoughts on that?
I think Arsenal has done a fantastic job of integrating their youth players into that first team. And yet again, letting them learn from those older players that have those experiences already.
Yep.
And I feel like they have such a talented academy with players like Nwaneri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and now Max Dauman.
Yeah.
Where they feel like those players are at a caliber that can help their team, finally realize the dream of winning some trophies this season. They're doing very well in the Champions League.
And they are top of the league. Yeah.
So I think that they've done a really good job at, using that youth academy to help the players that are already in the squad and help bolster, not only base your team around making signings, but allowing players to work their way into that team coming through the youth ranks.
Yeah. And I mean, Manchester United, they used to do that. They kind of still do, but it's kind of been on the downward spiral since Ten Hag came in. But we've tried to kind of promote that youth player. I think that's actually the identity of a lot of the top teams. It's not necessarily getting the players for 200 million and spending the cash. There's also the academy system, right? Obviously, the academy system is to get promising young players into the team and homegrown talents. And I feel like Arsenal is kind of one of the big examples. Manchester United used to be, but we've kind of fallen off a little bit. But Arsenal, in my opinion, is one of those teams that has really shown how to bring up youth talent. Obviously, look at Saka. Look at these players that they've brought up, like you said before, Nwaneri. And there's all these other players that they brought up that are so talented, Miles Lewis-Skelly. And I feel like Arsenal's really shown and kind of perfected the mode of the academy system. And they really shown that academies are a really big part of making a football team a great football team.
Well, they've been astounding defensively this season.
Yes.
They haven't allowed no goals allowed in the Champions League. And in the Premier League, they've only let 3 in all season long through 10 games now.
Yeah.
Which, that's insane numbers. They've only lost 1 match. But even with that loss, they're 6 points clear at the top of the table right now. And it's really looking like a year where after all those years of being so close, losing on the last day kind of things, that this could be their year to finally realize that dream of winning a trophy. And who knows, potentially even a double if they keep up their Champions League form. And then it would really give nobody anything to say towards Arsenal because they would finally have those trophies to back up that massive fan base that they have.
They've really, Arteta especially, obviously there's kind of been some whispers of him possibly getting sacked and all this stuff based off of they haven't won anything. And that's been a big kind of debate whether or not Arsenal has been a good team because they haven't won anything. But obviously they've gotten top 2 Champions League football for a while now. And Arteta has done an insane job from taking his team from a team that was dropping like a Manchester United is, taking his team that was kind of dropping, old, and didn't have enough talent on the team. And he's really shown that he's really kind of brought up this team and molded this team and created a really good team, like you said. And this season, it's seeing that the Liverpools, the Manchester Cities, in my opinion, are underperforming based off of the first 10 games of last season. And, obviously they're doing really well. But in my opinion, Arsenal right now is showing that they could possibly win the league. Now, the one thing I think about Arsenal, do you think they are going to flop? like they've done in previous seasons where they've been top 1, top 2, been seen as the team that's going to win it, and then right at the end they get the championship taken away from them by a Manchester City or a Liverpool, and they don't get the glory. It's actually mostly Manchester City, but they don't get the glory of raising that championship in London. They lose it in the final couple of games, or they kind of have a losing streak towards the end of the season. Do you think that's going to happen again, or do you think Arsenal now, defensively, because they're defensively sound, they actually have a striker now that's scoring goals for them, and they have a really good base and really good midfielders? Do you think that it's going to be another season of Arsenal flopping or Arsenal glory?
I think their team is different than the last couple of years. I think they're more so built for that long-term success in the season. They finally got that striker who's performing well for them now, that they've been missing that kind of player for so long. Their defense has been incredible this season with, Gabriel, Saliba, and then you can even throw a guy in like Mosquera, who is a brand new signing, who has come in and been an incredible defender for them when they need him to be. And I think that defensive soundness will keep them from maybe dropping points. It's hard to tell at this point, but they've only lost one match so far this season.
Yep.
And the second closest to that would be Sunderland and Bournemouth in 4th and 5th with 2 losses, whereas most of the other teams in the league at least have 3 or more losses. I think having that advantage on points already will help them. Even if they do have a bad game, they don't have to worry too much because they have that gap. And I think they need to embrace the mentality of playing from ahead and don't be too worried about dropping points. And if you do, move on and go win that next game and keep playing from in front. You don't have to change your way of play because you're winning. And I think they should be less scared to be more aggressive.
Yeah. And I think just don't become complacent. Don't think that you already have the championship in the bag. We look at Arsenal of old when they were in that level of almost winning the league, and everyone was saying they're winning the league. And that complacency came in. They lost a couple of games, and Man City took it from them. I think with the best teams in any league, it's a team that knows how to win. And I feel like the identity of Arsenal right now and how they're playing, they know how to win. And I feel like if you can just, like you said, just keep winning, or, it's how it's your mentality if you lose. It's how you work the next game and how you play the next game, and basically win the next game, right? And I think the best teams, they know how to win. And when they lose, they know how to bounce back quickly. And I feel like with Arsenal, that's what you have to do. You have to ride this wave of winning, but if something happens and the roller coaster goes down, you need to have a plan to get back up, and you need to have that mentality like every championship team does or has. Every Champions team, every team that wins any league has that mentality of we will never stop until we win that championship. And I feel like that's what Arsenal wants. That's what Arsenal kind of needs for to show that Arteta is a manager of high caliber. And I feel like it's the mentality that needs to stay the same, but of any champion, the champion's mentality that Arsenal needs to have. Now, moving on, we talked about Barcelona. They're not looking great form-wise within the Champions League. In the league, they're still second, but there's one guy that's emerged in becoming just a player back to his prime, or back to what he used to be, and that is Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford has played 14 games this season, I believe. Yeah, 14 games this season. He has 6 goals and 7 assists. Comparatively to last season, he's played 24 games and he had 7 goals and 6 assists. It's kind of been a resurgence. I don't I'm a Manchester United fan. I agree that him on Manchester United wasn't a good fit. And I believe that he's kind of found where he wants to be. And he's showing it. What's your thoughts?
I think they're a team that fits his play style a little bit better than the current Man United situation.
Exactly.
And I think he was, I don't know, maybe like kind of a Jack Grealish situation where he couldn't play the way he wanted to at Man U. So that new freedom of the move is really powering him back to what people knew him as. Before, before that lackluster bit in his career.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very similar situation to Jack Grealish, actually, because, the two of them, they're kind of stuck in mediocrity for so long. After having been, superstars back a couple of years ago, well, like 5 or 6 years ago, they were considered, some of the best players in the world. And then they have a couple mediocre seasons, and people think that they're kind of just, that's what they are now.
They're washed.
But now they've both gotten new transfers, and they've both, really come out and performed very well from those transfers and are crucial players to their new teams.
It's a change in scenery, I think. Obviously, Manchester United, Manchester City, they're two really large teams with large markets, and what large markets bring is media attention. And I feel like Rashford needed a change in climate from the negative media attention that's kind of consumed Manchester United in the kind of recent years. And I think he needed that change in scenery. He's a player that has a ton of talent, and we saw that back in 2023, 2024. We saw that, but he just didn't show it the next years. And I feel like, obviously, people are like, he's washed, he's overrated, he's not playing well. I feel like there was glimpses of him playing well. He just needed a move to save his career. It wasn't working at Manchester United. Climate-wise and emotionally-wise, he just wasn't playing to his full potential. And I feel like he just really needed to get that move to save his career and show his ability. And kind of show and kind of prove to Manchester United fans that were against him and didn't like how he was playing or how he was acting, kind of show him that I am a professional still and the media is telling something different.
I think he is finally proving people wrong a little bit. He's been very crucial to what Barca has been able to do so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
And he will definitely be a crucial player in that team that if they do somehow become, league champions, he'll have to have been a big pivotal player in that, as well as a player like Ferran Torres, who's been incredible for them this season. I think it's just a great situation for both of those kind of players to step in, especially with Lamine Yamal being injured quite a few times throughout the season already. And players like Rafinha not performing anywhere close to what they were last year. I think it's a team that needed someone to step up, and I think those two guys have done that. And another team that needed someone to step up was West Ham United, and it finally happened. We won a game, and it could be a little bit of a turn of the season, kind of hopefully turn a new leaf on the team right now.
One win of many?
Hopefully of at least a couple in quick succession here so we can get out of the bottom of the table. But it was the first home win for us in like over 250 days.
Wow.
And it was a fantastic performance from Youth Academy graduate Freddie Potts in the midfield.
Who you were talking about last podcast episode.
He got man of the match in his first ever start at the London Stadium. And it's just proof that you need to give those players the opportunities or they're never going to show you anything, and then you're going to assume that they're a failed product. If you don't give the player the opportunity to show you that, then you have no reason to not play them because you haven't seen anything from them. You might as well give them an opportunity. And I think that's what Freddie Potts capitalized on was, grabbing that opportunity and running with it and just proving that he deserves starting minutes. He deserves more minutes in general. And he's a player that could be pivotal in keeping us from going down this season.
And, I mean, yeah, what a win. It was 3-1 against Newcastle, 2 key goals, and one of the guys who scored, I didn't even think he was even playing this season, and that was Thomas Souček in the 97th minute.
He's been a bit of a bench player this year, but he's definitely someone that's crucial for us to have in the team with having that Premier League experience.
Yeah, he's proven, right?
Especially with us bringing in a lot of new guys this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's one of the last veteran presences in the dressing room from, the old guard West Ham kind of days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to have someone from then that knew when the winning was happening.
Yep.
I mean, even like a Jared Bowen's very helpful for that, to try and break the mentality of the players.
Yeah.
Break them out of that losing mentality. And it's been rumored that Jared Bowen has been very vocal in the dressing room, yelling at players that are underperforming, getting them to take accountability and try and, change the mentality in the dressing room. Now only 3 points down from Burnley with their second win of the season.
And you play Burnley next.
We play Burnley next, which will be a very important game that we cannot lose.
Yeah.
If we lose that one, it looks a little bit more bleak, especially because they're the least likely promoted team to stay up, in my opinion. So I think we have to build off of a win against a good a mediocre Newcastle team so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have to build off of that and try to, capitalize on our opportunities more.
Yep.
I think Freddie Potts has earned another start against Burnley. And I think that it could be, a big win that gets us back on track a bit.
Well, obviously, we've been talking about Arsenal and that winning mentality. And that winning mentality should be applied to almost every team. Right, every team wants to, wherever they're kind of situated within the league, because the Premier League, it's divided into kind of like 3 sectors. There's the fight for kind of top 4 and the league. There's the fight for mid-table and kind of Europa League, kind of Conference League positions. And then there's the fight to not get relegated. Obviously, West Ham is now in that fight to not get relegated. But part of that to not get relegated is you just have to take the points that you can get. And that is usually against the teams that you're kind of situated against. So in this context, it would be the Burnleys. It would be your Wolves. And it would be any team that's like not performing to the highest standards. And I feel like West Ham, right? You got that win. You've broken that kind of curse. And now you kind of roll with it. You're like, yeah, we got to win. And you keep that winning mentality and that winning energy. And you do the same stuff you did last game. And you just keep doing that and keep doing that. And, there's been a lot of teams that have been in that situation, been on that bottom level in the relegation zone. And they've proved that they can get out of that relegation zone. And they can become a team that maybe just scrapes out of relegation one season and then the next season is battling mid-table or even in some cases battling for European positions. And it's just something that, West Ham, it's really neat. And I'm happy for you as a West Ham fan. You get to watch your team win. Now we can talk about my team. The United Strand does not get a haircut.
No haircut at the middle of Old Trafford in front of all the fans.
No. We need to have a chant for him. Not going to lie. I don't know how the chant will go, and I am not going to be singing on air.
Cut his hair. Cut his hair.
That's some like American chant that is horrible. But I mean, we'll take any suggestions, I guess. But yeah. We were winning that game. Casemiro is back to his prime. He's kind of revitalized his career. He scored a beautiful header.
He's aging like fine wine.
He's aging like fine wine. Exactly. He's scored a goal in the previous game against Brighton, which we won 4-1. And now he scored another one against Notts Forest to lead into halftime 1-0. Then we came back after halftime, and we were not the same team. Notts Forest was absolutely just playing around us, just really, obviously Sean Dyche had the best team talk in the world because he really turned around his team. And in the 48th minute, Notts Forest score. And then in the 50th minute, Notts Forest score again. And now they're leading 2-1. And I'm looking at this being like, I do not think the United Strand is going to get a chance. Now, Diallo scored a beautiful volley to tie it 2-2. And we did tie the game. We lost points, but we didn't lose the game. And I think that's a good start. Amarim said in a press conference that obviously, basically in summary, saying that the mentality of the team today was really good because we were losing and we bounced back. Previous teams would just be losing and they would continue losing. And we bounced back and we showed that we are possibly a team that can get there. But during that time, when Casemiro scored that beautiful header, we were second in the league. And it was the shortest-lived second in the league I have ever seen. And now we're sitting below. But we're doing better than last season, and we still didn't lose the game. So we're still on a winning/not losing streak. And I idolize that. I'm happy about that. But it is a kind of a sting to lose points when it was kind of a poignant moment to be winning games. We would be second in the league for a short-lived time until Manchester City obviously would creep in there. Liverpool would creep in. But it would have been just kind of a change in perspective and a change in kind of the climate of the club, seeing your club back up into the top 4 places that we haven't seen in 3 to 4 years. And obviously, yeah, your team won, and I was happy to see that. But I was kind of just a little bit displeased about my team. Now, if we talk, like I said earlier, Liverpool crept in to the top 4 placements, and they changed around how they've been doing, and they won. They won, and it was kind of, well, it was something that they needed. They needed a win after not winning like 4 straight Premier League games. They needed that win, and they got it. Do you have any thoughts on Liverpool?
Not much to say about Liverpool.
No, I mean, honestly,
apart from that Champions League game. But I think they're a team that's still, despite the 4 losses, they're still going to be a team up there in the table.
Yep.
They're not going to be a team that's just going to bow out. They have a lot of talent. They have a good manager. I don't think that they're a team that's going to fall out of the top 4 by the end of the season. I do think there's still room in the top 4 for someone to come in.
Yep.
Because, there's a Sunderland's in 4th right now.
And that team's going to be Manchester United.
It could be. Tottenham's up there.
Yeah.
Bournemouth has been really good recently. They're in 5th. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup for that 4th and final spot. I think the top 3 is pretty locked up.
Yeah.
With Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City.
Mm-hmm.
I think that 4th and final spot's kind of up for grabs still.
And it'll be kind of an interesting race, I guess, to see who will get to that 4th place and get into the Champions League. Like, obviously, like you said, Tottenham's in there, Sunderland's in there, Manchester United still have a chance, Bournemouth. There's a lot of these teams that still have a chance to make it to that level, and, well, they'll be hungry for it. These are a lot of teams that haven't really, I mean, Tottenham, of course, but Tottenham had a terrible season last year. They were just lucky they beat us in the Europa League final to get to the Champions League. But, they're going to be fighting to get that automatic placement into the UCL, and it's going to be interesting to see It's going to be interesting to see the relegation, the battle for not getting relegated, but it's also going to be really interesting to see that battle for the top 4 place. And something that it will be, just really, really interesting, and some really interesting games. Now, I want to go to kind of completely change what we were talking about. We were talking about the Premier League and teams and our teams' displays last match day. I want to go to the World Cup. The World Cup is around the corner, and it's in North America. And Adidas has released their jerseys for the teams that they sponsor. Now, I kind of want to do a little bit of a ranking system. Not really, but basically, I want you to say your 3 favorite jerseys. I'll say my 3 favorites, and then you pick one that you kind of don't like as much. And I'll kind of push it to you to say your 3 favorite jerseys and why from Adidas's World Cup collection.
Mexico would be my number 1 jersey. I think it's just a very iconic design. I like it more than their one from last time around. I think it's a bit more subtle in the design, but it also pulls back on those, old kits that they had. It's very similar to a lot of their older kits, and I really like the white striping on it. I think it stands out a lot on the green, especially with the red there too.
Yeah.
And as a host nation, I think it's great that they have a really good kit for the cup. Germany would be my number 2. It's also a very, very nostalgic looking kit. Looks a lot like some of their most sought after kits from some of their best teams ever. I don't think a Germany kit ever really goes wrong. And I think they're always a good team in the World Cup. And then my 3rd place would be Japan. I think it's a bit of a more creative design with the way they did like the white pinstriping sort of thing around the logo, but I think it's something very eye-catching. I think it works very well for Japan to have that, and I think it's, a team that is kind of known for being really good at the World Cup, a hard team to play against, and they'll look good doing it.
Now, I'll go to my favorites, and I picked 2 that you did, actually, and I'll say my reasons why I liked it and kind of just add on to what you said. My number 1 favorite one was Germany. I love Germany's kit this season, for this World Cup. It brings back that classic nature, like you said, of their best years, but also the best designs that a lot of people seek with a kind of a modern twist. Obviously, right now, we're kind of in a weird situation when it comes to football kits, where we're going back to the templates and the styles of old in a kind of a new way with that Aerofit design. But we're having, like, Liverpool's away kit. I'm a Manchester United fan, but I like that green. I feel like it's really cool. But going back to this World Cup kit, it's classic, it's timeless, and I feel like it's been executed really well to show an appreciation for that vintage template and that vintage design, but bring in elements that are new in nature, kind of showing the new wave of German players that are playing in this World Cup, like Wirtz and Musiala. My second one was Japan. I really like Japan's jersey. I feel like Japan never misses with their World Cup jerseys. I feel like they are always really good. And I don't know about you, but Japan is almost this like World Cup team. It's like a Mexico for me with like Ochoa and all this, but Japan always plays really well, like you said, in the World Cup. But they've always brought out really good jerseys, and I find the kits this season is really, really good. It has a beautiful wave pattern design on it. It's bright blue like the Japanese jerseys are always. And I just find it really, really nice and really, really clean. Now, moving on to my other one, my other favorite, my third favorite, and it's different from yours. Obviously, I love the Mexican kit. I think Mexico killed it with their kit, and Adidas really did well in designing a kit that kind of encompasses the Mexican football team. But I picked Ukraine because I thought it was a really neat kit. I saw your face over there, and let me explain myself of why I love the kit so much. It is a bit basic, but I find it does it better than a Sweden. So it is bright yellow with blue, obviously the colors of Ukraine. But it's not only yellow. In that yellow design, there is this embroidered kind of traditional design that accompanies the kit and is on the kit. And I feel like it's really cool. It brings in culture, but it also brings in community, which I think the World Cup really presents and really shows in a unique way. And I find that this Ukraine kit really encapsulates that. And I really love its design. And I think it's just like other Ukraine kits have been really boring, in my opinion. They've just been like a solid yellow with their logo. But this one, they're going beyond that. They have just that yellow template, but they've included that embroidered traditional design on there. And I feel like that is really neat to see in a football kit. What is your thoughts on my suggestion? Because it seems like you have a big emotional response to my choice there.
Ukraine's actually one of the ones I wrote down that was lacking a bit, in my opinion, along with Peru and Qatar.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit boring of a kit, especially for a country that's gone through so much recently.
Yep.
I feel like they could have done a little bit more. It has those embroidered details, but you're only going to see that if you're like right up against the kit. So on TV, it's mostly just going to look like a plain yellow kit still.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's better than potentially their previous ones, but I still think it was maybe lacking a little bit because of circumstances.
Yeah, that's
recently. Fair. I think the Qatar kit was especially boring, kind of just a maroon kit with their logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Peru one, they tried to do something interesting
with
the logo.
I don't
and
like that
the sachet kind of thing, but it was a bit too geometric kind of for me.
For me, what I don't like about that Peru kit, because honestly, I had that on my list of being one of the worst ones, is Peru's been known for these really timeless designs. They've kind of kept, it's like in Argentina, they've kept their design throughout. Their home jersey always is white with a stripe or a sash of red. But this one's weird because it like wraps around the Adidas logo, I'm pretty sure. Because the Adidas logo kind of is like really huge on the jersey. And I feel like that just defeats the whole purpose of the jersey. Because having that Adidas logo and kind of having the stripe, but it kind of goes around, shows me like they had the stripe, it looked really good, but of course they had to put their sponsor on there. So they could just like popped it on there like a sticker and didn't really care. And in my opinion, that was it's just basic too. I like the Peru kit of old where it was just white with that red stripe, classic design, but it was like an off-white almost. Sometimes you get it confused with there's other teams that have that design, like River Plate, I'm pretty sure. But, you associate that design with Peru, and I feel like it wasn't executed well. And another one I put down was Sweden. I find Sweden's kit really boring. I felt like it was the worst version of the Ukraine kit. I feel like they could have done a bit better. Like, obviously, they're known for their bright yellow, but it's just a really boring. It just looks like a practice jersey. It looks like a template in a practice jersey that I feel like was really lackluster and really didn't show. Like, Sweden's a really good team, and I'm surprised they haven't made the World Cup stage in a while, or they didn't make it last time. And I felt like they could have done a little bit better because obviously they've had some really good kits and some really good players. And I just feel like this one was just really boring and didn't take as much time as the other ones. I feel like what I really like about jerseys is, one, the vintage look to them, but also if the jerseys have a specific story of why they're created and what they kind of represent.
We're talking about the 2026 World Cup, the Men's World Cup, but actually at the moment, there is the U17 World Cup taking place in Qatar. And one thing that I love about the U17 World Cups, the U21 World Cups, is that there's some very interesting countries that make their way into those tournaments, and I think it's just really interesting to see how those countries, how their youth academies in their countries have done.
Mm-hmm.
There's teams like Costa Rica and the UAE playing in a match, which is something you would never really see at the Men's World Cup, drawing 1-1. But then you also have teams like New Caledonia from Oceania making it to the World Cup. And, they have a tough match against a Portugal where they lose 6-1.
Yep.
But I think it's also really interesting to see, that those youth academy youth players from, countries like New Caledonia, you wouldn't even really think of them.
Yeah.
But to see them, on the world stage is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Tunisia and Fiji playing a match is not something you would hear very often, with a 6-0 win for Tunisia. And Brazil finished their game scoring 7 goals to Honduras' nothing. And that's a number Brazil kind of, they're kind of known for that 7 goals in a game. Mexico dropped their match 2-1 to South Korea in the first match day, which I think was maybe a little bit of a surprise for some people.
Yeah.
England actually lost 3-0 to Venezuela.
Wow.
Which is very surprising. You always associate England with having a strong football team.
Well, they always have strong football academies around the country. So I'm surprised that they would have lost, seeing that they dominate in the U21. And they dominate in a lot of areas when it comes to international football. So yeah, that's a crazy result.
A team that maybe people wouldn't expect to see in anything sports related is North Korea.
Wow.
North Korea's U17s beat El Salvador's U17s 5-0.
Wow.
In the first match day, and North Korea's under 17 and under 21 teams for both men's and women's football are actually very good.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they won the women's U21 World Cup recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's a country that, kind of surprises people that they're good at football.
Well, it's a very isolated
because
country.
You never hear anything about North Korea, and then they come out and they win 5-0.
Obviously, there was the famous Portugal beat them when they got to the World Cup, and they beat them by a large amount. And but that's really the only news you really hear. Obviously, there's been some North Korean players within certain places, but it politically and just how the country operates, it's a hard country to get any news about their teams.
And then kind of a feel-good story as well here, Uzbekistan. Mm-hmm. They made the U17 World Cup as well as the Men's World Cup, and they picked up a 2-1 win over Paraguay. And then we can talk about the Canadian team a little bit too. They went and won 2-1 against Uganda today in their first ever U17 World Cup win. And it's something that, the men's team is looking for still to win a game at the World Cup.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a sign of things to come maybe.
Yeah.
To see the U17 team doing well. Our U21 team is excelling recently as well. And I think it's very good to see that development at the lower levels of Canadian football, the younger ages, and it gives you hope for the future of the men's team too.
Well, yeah, obviously the best international teams, I mean, we talked about the best teams in general. The best international teams is when you have a solid identity as an international team, and that comes from teaching younger players coming up through the ranks how to play the Team Canada game. And I feel like also it gives a ton more opportunities for young Canadian footballers to get their in the professional football setting. Obviously, this is huge and monumental for a country. Like, our country in Canada has not really been a footballing nation until after, we have had moments of being good, but national team wise, we haven't been good since 2020. We've been good since 2022, in my opinion. there's still more to be done. But through this World Cup and the infrastructure and the awareness of the North American football identity, I feel like our game will grow even more, and the CPL will grow even more, and the Canadian national team, the caliber of players, seeing that we're going to be bringing up these players, I feel like it's really good. Obviously, I think the hard thing for Canada as a nation, as a national team, would be we don't have a necessarily top 5 league within our country. We don't have a league where young players are playing for the top teams, coming up through the ranks and getting their chances under the lights in the UCL, right? Obviously, we can't play in the UCL, but just we don't have a team. We don't even have one team like a Bayern Munich, or like we kind of do in the MLS, but the MLS is different comparatively to a European kind of side. And I feel like, a lot of the national teams, they come up through the ranks of playing in these really big leagues around the world. And we kind of have that, but our league needs to grow even more within North America to grow this young talent. And it has been, but there's still more work that needs to be done.
I mean, talking a little bit about the CPL here, our local team here in Calgary, Cavalry FC, have made a third straight final, and every single time they've gone to the final, it's been in a different way to get there.
Yep.
This time they accomplished getting to the final with a big 1-0 win away from home against Forge.
Yep.
Where Toby Warshevsky had a big 57th minute goal that proved to be the game winner. And the attack for Cavalry has just been very good recently.
Yep.
Getting hot at the right time. They had 7 shots on goal in the game and 11 total shots. Whereas, Forge, I think, only had 2 on net, but 12 total shots. The defense is also performing very well right now. Tobias Warshevsky in that game came out with an 8.2 rating according to FOTMob, and every single attacking player for the Cavs had at least a 7 or better. And I think it's really good to see. No, we're without Camargo right now, but Kenija Alva has stepped in that 10 role and has been incredible in the playoffs for us. He's put a lot of shots on net. He's had a lot of high danger opportunities. He's picked up a couple assists, and I think he's a player that is showing that he deserves to play more, and that he can be, a game changer for us. But now we're moving into the final away from home at Atletico Ottawa. They've been a great team all year.
Well, they have the top goal scorer on their team.
They've had the best attack in the league all year, so I think it's going to be a very high-flying game. I don't think it's going to be a necessarily low-scoring game where you saw against Forge, where the defenses kind of were the game winners for the Cavalry. It should be 2 talented attackers between Tobias Warshevsky and Samuel Salter, as well as their supporting casts. And hopefully we can ruin Sam Salter's kind of going away party as he's moving away from the CPL this winter, and moving over to Sweden.
Wow.
To join former Atletico Ottawa player Matteo De Brienne, playing at Gaish in Sweden. I think he's kind of, turned the league upside down this season. He's broken, every single scoring and a goal contribution record that the league had previously. And I think it's a team, Atletico Ottawa, that, they've kind of changed the standard of attacking in the league a little bit. And I think you can kind of see that in Cavalry as their game has evolved this season. They kind of taken after a little bit, playing wing play, but also really focusing on that number 10 to drive play. And I think the battle could be won based off of players coming off the bench in that game.
And we talked about certain players that we have. We have a very good bench, and I mean, Atletico Ottawa does as well. Atletico Ottawa is a very strong team, I mean, they beat Forge and they get hometown advantage within this kind of weird playoff format. And I think it's going to be the Cavalry. They, like you said, they have to up their game. I feel like we are a good team, but Atletico Ottawa is a really good team as well. And I feel like we just need to show why we've been to 3 finals and we need to win this one. And yeah, like you said, bench play is a huge kind of thing that we need to show. We need the Myronux, the Whalings, the Kinesias most games. We need to kind of have them to step up and really elevate their game, because I think as well it's going to be a cagey affair. I feel like both teams are going to want to win, and we've seen it in multiple finals that Cavs have been in. It's been a 1-2 goal game, and it's been very close right till the end. And I think that we need to show our versatility. We need to show that our subs are really good, and we need to use that to our advantage to kind of beat a team that is looking to be the victors in this situation.
It's really a game that has everything to play for and everything to lose in terms of trophies and qualifying to the CONCACAF Champions League. Neither team has an automatic qualifier anywhere else. Forge got theirs through winning the regular season. Vancouver FC won their getting into it for some reason, because they got to the final of the Canadian Championship, and the Whitecaps already qualified through the MLS, which leaves the final here between Atletico Ottawa and Cavalry as league champions, as well as getting to earn that right to play in the CONCACAF Champions League, play against the big Mexican team again and prove that the league is good.
Well, the CONCACAF Champions League is huge for the Cavs. It's huge for any team in the CPL. And it's where we, of course, play against the top guys in all of the CONCACAF leagues. So we play against the big teams in Mexico. We play against the big teams in do we play against American teams, or is it?
There's American teams in there. There's all of the Caribbean teams, the Central American teams.
It's actually a huge tournament for teams like us, teams that are smaller, and it's really big, and we get to play against all these really good people. And I feel like, this game is a huge game, because both Atletico Ottawa and Cavalry are going to want to play that, because it means more games and it means more exposure to bigger leagues and bigger teams.
And I mean, of course, the Cavs have played in it a couple of years in a row here. They played Orlando Soccer Club a couple of years ago, and then last summer they got the opportunity to play against Pumas out of Mexico, and they actually won the first leg match and ended up losing the leg against Pumas away from home. But I think it's good to show that they can't just get away with playing their B team against a CPL team that it's not as easy of a matchup as they had originally thought. And I'm not entirely sure if Atletico Ottawa has ever played in the CONCACAF Champions League, so that would be something that they would be very hungry to, qualify for the first time, especially having, they're owned by Atletico Madrid out of Spain, a big team there. You'd think that they'd be pushing for that really hard. And I think both teams are going to put very good efforts into the game, because there's so much to play for, so many things that would bring new talent to their teams, make them a bit more of a destination, and really hope to grow the league and in North America and just in general. It's very important that we play against those bigger teams, and then those fan bases see that we are we're a team that exists in Canada apart from the MLS.
I'm going to stop you there, because we are out of time for this episode. And so we got episode 7 in the books, and episode 8 is next week on Wednesday, live on Wednesday from 2 till 3. If you've missed anything or you want to see more, go to our YouTube channel, On a Yellow, and we'll be posting our content on there. It's been a pleasure. Zach, do your goodbyes that you usually do.
Bonjour, au revoir, and good night.
See you later, guys.